Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Adeze Okezie, the live video visibility queen with erotic accent, and you're listening to the Style with Anna podcast, the one and only podcast about the many expressions of style. Find out how our exceptional guests turn their flaws into assets and how they define style from their own and unique perspective. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast on your favorite platform and kindly leave a one-sentence review. Now, let us join the journey and meet the host, Anna in Style, aka the Style Medium.
Thank you, Daisy, for the lovely introduction. It's always a pleasure hearing your professional accent. Hello, Harmony, and welcome to the Style with Anna podcast.
Hello. Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's my honor and my pleasure, of course. The first thing I ask every client is to name three words that best describe you.
Sexy, classy, and elegant.
Oh, wow. Well, that was like, whoa. What happened?
I know myself very well.
Yeah, extraordinary. I love it. So can you expand this a little?
Yeah, so I really, in my childhood, patterned myself after Audrey Hepburn and my aunt. So Audrey Hepburn, as we know, is very classy and very eloquent. She's so beautiful. And I think when it comes to class, I think, from the classic days, she would really be the personification of class and beauty and elegance. And I used to watch a lot of old movies when I was a child. My mother was really big into them. And so watching her, I just wanted to be just like that when I grew up without the 20-inch waist, because, she kind of went through the Second World War, and it was as a result of starvation and stuff that created that tiny waistline. So that's one thing I'm not going to aspire to. But outside of that, I mean, the girl had a deer as a pet. Are you kidding me? Like, she was just incredible. And her secret was she would have a piece of dark chocolate, like baker's chocolate, at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon to have that like sweetness, So, and she was a ballerina as a child. She was a dancer. And so just a beautiful, I think, example of what a woman could be, and the kind of a mother she was, and how she gave back to UNICEF, in Africa and stuff like that. She just was such a beautiful woman in all aspects. So I very much, idolized her as a child and got to know her life and her story even more so as an adult. And the more I got to know her, the more I was like, she's definitely a good person to, I think, pattern yourself after. And then I also had an aunt that had hair like mine, vibrant red hair. She was sex on a stick is the best way to describe her. Imagine a woman in the 80s wearing leopard print dresses, 4-inch stilettos, like just totally sexy. And she walked down the street and everybody wanted to be her best friend. Mel Gibson was filming Bird on a Wire here in Vancouver, and he saw her and had his bodyguards go get her. And she hung out with Mel Gibson while he was filming Bird on a Wire here, because she was that beautiful that she pulled attention everywhere she went. And I was very aware of the power that she had being that sexy. And so what I ended up, I think, doing in my mind was creating a mix of the two, the power that sexuality has and that beauty and eloquence and elegance that Audrey Hepburn had, and then turning that into this.
Wow, that's an inspiration to how would I say, jaw-dropping.
I think we all kind of attach ourselves to different idols. We just don't necessarily really consciously, mindfully break it down and think about it as much as we really should, in all reality. And it's a part of the work that I do, is actually have my clients break down their ideal of beauty, where they got it from, why they choose to become that, and to tear that all apart and actually realize that what they want to be is the best version of themselves, the most beautiful, unfiltered, self-loving, confident, sexy version of themselves.
Yeah, that's amazing. Can you elaborate this a bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the fundamental basics of the work that I do, it really is about supporting a client tapping into their own brilliance and really understanding that what it is that they're seeking from an outside source truly should be sourced within. We start at the beginning of our lives seeking love and validation from an outside source because we are weak and frail and helpless, and we need our parents to take care of us, or we won't survive for very long. And so we are programmed at the beginning of life to look outward for survival, for love, for acceptance, or we won't make it. However, it's actually a hint to what we're meant to discover in our adult years, which is that everything that we're actually seeking from an outside source, we want to actually source within. And this gives us not only the ability to be able to step into unapologetically whatever it is that we want to do, our dreams, our desires, our passions, which most of the time is really in all reality helping the world. We usually, anyone that I've ever met that talks about wanting to do something, they want to give back in some way, but they're afraid to step into it. And self-worth has a lot to do with that. When you also love yourself deeply and you've learned really just how amazing and brilliant you are, and you're self-sustaining, you can also let other people be who they are instead of dictating their behavior for your happiness, because you don't need them to be or do anything for you to be happy. So it really is such a beautiful state to be in, you know, just allowing everyone their free agency and being able to step into whatever it is you're inspired to do with ease, because you know that you're worth investing in. So it's really kind of creating that solid foundation for my clients to walk a path for the rest of their lives, learning how to create an unconditionally loving relationship with themselves, tapping into all the aspects of the multidimensional, powerful, divine being that they are, and spending the rest of their lives recommitting to that, because we know that as we age, we change, right? And our size changes, and one day we feel bloaty, the next day we feel fine. It changes every day. So being able to wake up every morning and loving yourself in all of those shifts and changes, regardless of how you feel, is such a beautiful thing to constantly be recommitting to and expanding on.
Oh yeah, and you mentioned something really important that I would like to emphasize, and it is the concept of love and loving. I'm sure everyone has heard before that you should love yourself first before you can expect someone else to love you.
Yeah.
And I see this a lot with women who have trouble loving themselves or accepting their body, for example, you know, especially this weight fluctuation. It's actually the most natural thing in the world to have weight fluctuation.
Yes.
And I guess the industry and the era we've been brought up, our generation, made it, or I would say mystified this weight fluctuation in a way. It made it unnatural for some reason. And as the consequence is not accepting your body the way it is and rejecting it. And what I see often is that women who reject a part of themselves don't allow others to give them compliments or give them gifts even. I see a correlation between denying parts of yourself and then denying receiving either help or love or gifts or anything that they consider special or important.
Yeah.
And it feels like a vicious cycle, right? You want to receive things, you want to be loved, you want to be appreciated, accepted, and well paid for that matter. But
Yes.
what happens is that when the moment comes when you're in position to receive, you block.
Yeah. Yeah. And it has everything to do with self-worth. And the thing that's really important to understand is that at the root of that is our subconscious programming. So from a conscious standpoint, we are saying and we are speaking the desire to want these things. I don't think anyone consciously desires to call in a partner that's going to be abusive and that's going to neglect them or not give as much as they give, right? And yet somehow they keep ending up in these relationships that are unfulfilling, where their desires aren't being met and they're not being loved the way that they consciously want to be loved. But the problem is the subconscious mind and all of the programming that's been created as a result of your childhood calls in these people. And the reason that it's happening is because the subconscious mind knows that we are meant to heal and expand. It understands our divine design and that we're meant to revisit our childhood trauma and experiences because there is healing and awareness that needs to be created so that we can step into something amazing that we wanted to do. But instead, what we do is just call out the person for being horrible and we end the relationship and we create the same relationship with a different face. And so it's really important to understand that we can want everything with the 5%, the conscious mind. But if we don't learn how to create a harmonious relationship with the subconscious and the conscious mind, we're not going to see the forward movement in our lives that we really want to see, because all of the power is in tapping into and learning how to update your mental operating system.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And also, now you mentioned the partner, right? I have a theory that, yes, on the subconscious level, we tend to choose a certain type of people who we are attracted to. But then again, recently, I've been contemplating about the idea that with our behavior, we provoke some things in our life with people who wouldn't react that way if they were with someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, because we're playing out programs. I completely agree with you. Absolutely. There's no two ways about it. We both replay things, and you're totally right. I might respond and react a completely different way than my partner, would anticipate or expect somebody else to behave, and it would pull behavior out in him. And you're completely spot on with that. And the thing is in general, when we get triggered, we are running survival programming and we're not in control of it, which is why a lot of people, when they walk away from a fight, 20 minutes later, they're going, what did I just do? What did I do? Can I fix that? I don't even know if I can fix that. Oh my gosh, right? Because the subconscious mind takes over and the logic is not there, because when you're high emotion, you're low intelligence, right? And so it's important to really learn how to zip it when you're triggered and not say anything, walk away and process what needs to be processed so that you can come back and have a conversation when you're calm. Because I have seen relationships undone when a person acts out from a place of being high emotion and running survival programs, right? So for how much we want to be happy, we don't realize how much we are undoing our happiness, blocking our happiness, sabotaging our happiness because of all of the trauma and pain and programs and different things that we're carrying that are absolutely dictating and controlling our reality. So, it's such beautiful and powerful and, believe it or not, fun work. when you get into it. It's not as horrible as you think it is. A lot of people are creating a monster in the closet that they don't want to go spend time with. And I'm just going to tell you, it's actually like, it's an amusement park in my mind, right? It's fun and it's playful. And when I'm working with my clients, we laugh and we have fun and we giggle and we have fun together. And it's not this revisiting pain, because the work that I do, it's not actually going back and revisiting the trauma. What I focus on is what is the residual that you are dealing with as a result of the trauma. I'm not as concerned about the trauma. I'm concerned about what's affecting you right now. That's the problem, right? So let's get to what it is that you're energetically holding on to. What programs are in your brain that are still running, that are sabotaging the current agenda that you have? And let's clear and update and shift all of that to get you out of your way. So if you know that you don't have to go back and revisit the monster in the closet or relive the trauma, I think it's a lot more motivating as a potential client to go, wait, hold on a second. I don't have to go dive into my past. This is okay. I can get with this.
I couldn't agree more with you, because this is how I work with my clients as well. I work with them through body, and they're like, okay, how are you going to, I don't know, fix some things while working through body? It's, we are used to always go from, exploring the past and fixing things and focusing on the past and what happened. And this is the traditional model, right?
Yes.
And as you mentioned, it's basically emphasizing the pain, waking up the pain, reliving it,
Yes.
and all that. Okay, some people say, okay, you're reliving your pain, but you're doing it in a safe environment, and you're able to somehow go through it again in a different situation, and you're not so attached, so it can get resolved. But what I see in real life is that this is not so effective as it's supposed to be.
Yes. Yes,
And
exactly.
definitely not fast enough.
No, I'm the same way as you are. I like to expedite things. So I love that you're like-minded in that regard, seeing people having to revisit their pain and going, okay, this is way too slow. There's a faster way to do this.
Definitely. And it is by bypassing the conscious mind completely.
Yes.
So working with symbols and subconsciousness, I find really fun as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the modern psychology, as I observe it now, it's really focused on play.
Yeah.
And playing and working with symbols. And whenever we're working with symbols, it always feels like a child's play.
Mm.
But that's okay. There's nothing wrong. Even if we look at the nature, the wolves, they're playing. They're considered as serious creatures, and fierce and whatnot. You better don't mess with them. But they have this component of play, and it is really, really important for the socializing part.
Yes.
And also for the developing of the intelligence. All intelligent creatures play. So playing is not something that makes us childish.
Yes.
But it's an integral part of our intelligent being.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And in predator animals, they actually, in playing with each other, they're learning how to become hunters. So it's a part of what they're actually learning how to do to survive, which is incredibly important. And I think for those of us who can cultivate our childlike, attitude and behavior and to play, it actually keeps us malleable and adaptable and lighthearted, because the older that we get with all of the stresses and all of the stuff that goes on in our world, we become shut down and self-protecting and rigid, and we forget how to be malleable and open and curious and free, and how to say yes to curiosity, because the logic steps in and goes, yeah, but I tried that before and failed, so I'm not going to do it again. When you look at a child, they're curious and they just do it, and there's a complete disregard to consequences. They don't think about consequences to anyone, including themselves. They're human wrecking balls. They're trying to commit suicide all the time, and you're like, I keep having to stop this 2-year-old from literally trying to end its life. Well, they don't understand the concept of death, do they? So, I mean, if we can cultivate that beautiful freedom and understand that obviously logic needs to play a part, so we're not doing something silly to end our lives, but to really have that kind of reckless abandon for anything that we have the desire and the curiosity to do, that's business wise, relationship wise, friendship wise, if you want to move to a different place, whatever it is, the worst that can happen is a learning lesson. Failure doesn't exist. It really doesn't. Because really, you can get up, brush yourself off, and pivot or try something else, right? So where are the consequences? There's no reason why we can't be like children and just follow through and get up just like they do. We might have a few more bruises and we might get up a little slower than a 2-year-old does, but we can get up and keep going. So I am all for play and being childlike and actually bringing that back into my client's reality. I do a hypnosis where I actually take a client to their child's self and have them rescue their child self and merge them back with that in the present now. And it's amazing how it completely changes the way that they interact and their awareness with the world. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, this childlike perspective is important for sure. I saw this in the in people from an African tribe. They are, not directed by the modern society.
Yeah.
And they do keep this child curiosity, sense of humor in way into their high age. And they're not worried, they're not burdened, although they have life experience and everything. But I think it's the Western society that does this, the society of shame. And yeah, I would say shame plays a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of, it doesn't matter what culture you come from, in all reality, there's a lot of expectations from all different walks of life. I've worked with clients that come from all sorts of different countries, and the expectations, the societal programming is different, and yet it's binding to everyone. And the ones who are called to work with me are what I call outliers. So those are the ones that are growing up in the country they're growing up in the culture they're growing up in, and going, this isn't right. I don't want to do this. This is dumb. I don't want to do anything else. I'm not sure what I want to do, but I'm not doing what these people are doing. And so from a young age, this is their mindset, right? And one day they grow up and they find a harmony and they're like, hey, you can help me with this. And I help them dismantle and question everything, and then create a reality that is really, really supporting their own divine design and supporting their own happiness and creating an agenda that's going to support them, as opposed to helping really meet the expectations of their peers or their family or their society, right? Most people, when you really think about it, if you ask a person what they really want, their answer is, I don't know, because their whole life is dictated by the expectations and the approval of everyone around them.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And this is also seen in their style, because, when we grow up, of course, grown-ups decide what we're going to wear.
Yeah.
And depending on the authority they have, or they force on us subconsciously, it's normal. It's not something that would be wrong. It's just how it is. And if their style, for example, if our mother's style does not correlate with our style, it can happen that we lose ourselves, because then we are not sure what our style is actually, and we adopt the style of our parents. And I see this, and not only our parents, but also, as you mentioned, the expectation of the society, how we should behave, how we should look like, depending on our status, our gender, our surroundings, where we live or grow up. I mean, when I came to live in a country, of course, I'm still considered a city girl. And this brings some expectations on me. And on the one hand, they do tolerate my eccentric how would I call
your style?
Yeah, let's say it that way. And on the other hand, they expect me to behave in a certain way.
Yeah, I found that's what's really beautiful in embracing that. I'm a city girl as well, and I just vacationed on a ranch, and I was around a bunch of people in the country. And what I found was really beautiful about that, because they do have an attitude towards city folk, right? And they have a nickname for them, and they kind of have an attitude towards them that is negative, because they find that the people come from the city and act like they're better than the country folk. And so they have an attitude towards them. And so it's reciprocated, obviously. And knowing that, growing up in the city and spending a fair amount of time in the country as well, I actually showed them a lot of respect and would flat out say, I'm way out of my depth right now. I don't know, the Mother Nature and the plants and everything like you guys do. I have so much respect for how connected you are to the earth. And, you guys are just so brilliant in ways that I never will be growing up in the city. So I have respect for you. And that typically would be the first thing that would come out of my mouth. And then they'd be like, oh, she's not like the other city folks, so she can dress however she wants. I like her. Right. Yes. And I think that's the big thing, is if you just, in whatever space you're in, if you are genuinely who you are, but you come out of the gates showing the people that you're in front of love and acceptance, and honoring them and respecting them for everything that they are, then they'll automatically reciprocate and give you that kind of love and accept everything you are, because they know you're not judging them and you're not in competition with them. Right? So just always come out of the gates with a compliment. It works well.
Definitely. And with the childlike curiosity.
Exactly.
Because you can learn from anyone, no matter their level of whatever. Either level of education, or level of emotional intelligence, or level of intelligence in general, or level of social intelligence, whatever. Because there is always something that they will be better than you. Inevitably.
Exactly. You're totally spot on. I wanted to speak to what you brought up earlier around body shapes and the ebb and flow of our weight and everything. And I think what a lot of people really need to understand is that, from culture to culture, from decade to decade, throughout all of human history, what we should look like is being dictated to us. There was a time when the ideal male was the warrior, strong, fierce type, because at any point in time, the king was going to call his men to go to war to conquer a country, because that's what they did back in the day, was cultivate more land through war, right? So the ideal body type was a fierce, powerful, strong warrior. They wanted all of the men to be that way so that they could send them to war, right? So when we understand, and of course, there's also different cultures that the wealthier were actually bigger. The bigger you were, the wealthier you were. So, because you could eat more, right? And that was sexy. The more rotund, the sexier you were. So, every culture has a different way of thinking of what the ideal is for men and women, and for where you are in the status of that culture. And also in our culture today, I've seen from decade to decade what the ideal body type is keeps changing. I somehow got access to all of the covers of Playboy from the very beginning to now. And it was just showing how each decade, the body type of what a woman was, the ideal, changed every single decade. And that was when I actually tweaked to the fact that everything was being dictated to us, right? And today, the ideal body type that's being dictated to us is a larger chest, a tiny waist, and a big, rear end. And there's just nothing natural about that body type, right? Many of us can't attain that. And yet that's what's popular. So if we try to attach ourselves to this idea that every decade, the ideal body type is going to change, and we somehow have to alter our bodies to meet that, I'm just saying it's a losing battle, right? So the only thing that we can do is look at what our ideal body is, what our healthy body should look like, and love that and attain that. And then celebrate beauty everywhere else that we see it in what it is, because we are all a garden of flowers and none of us should be the same. I am one type of beauty and you're another type of beauty. And that mix, that cornucopia of beauty is what makes the world a beautiful place.
Absolutely. And you can do a lot of things through clothes, the way the shapes you choose. So we can adapt to different ideas, but most of the time we're dressed. So we can use that to our advantage, and shape our body the way we want through what we wear. Because in the end of the day, when we do lose clothes, it really doesn't matter what the shape is, because then we're focused on other things, and our partner is focused on other things as well. He will not come with the measuring tape and see your proportions before you're
No,
going
he's
to
just
get into
the room.
So whenever people are running around with a measuring tape, we do have our clothes to balance our body shape.
Yes.
But when we lose the clothes, this doesn't matter.
No, that's exactly it. Dress for your body type and love yourself, and just focus on creating a healthy, strong body so that you can enjoy your life. That's what it comes down to. My goals for when I was 20 are different than my goals now in my 40s. Now I want a strong, fierce body. I want strong, thick thighs. You know what I mean? I want to do a pistol squat. I want to be able to do, for me, it's functionality as opposed to what my waistline is. You know what I mean? I used to sacrifice my health to try to be slim. Now it's not about that. It's about strength and it's about longevity, because I'm now 43 and I want to have a long quality lifestyle, right? And I think that's what we should be focusing on, instead of measuring our waist and making sure it's small enough.
Yes, definitely. And I see we're the same generation, so I get you 100%. So yes, this body theme, this is really important. I'm so happy that we ended up with our today's discussion on this topic, because it's an integral part of our identity as well. Yeah. Whenever we are observed from the outside, from other people, we are being recognized through our body.
Yeah.
And just an example, if you say, who is this person? And if you're a bit curvy, they might say, oh, that's that bigger lady over there, for example. So it is a part that identifies us from the outside. And there's really nothing wrong if people call us that way. It's just a description. It doesn't define who we are. It defines how we are.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, through age, through decades, the ideal is changing. And also in different parts of the world, the ideal is changing. It's different. For example, I always use the African example. Ladies there, if they want to get married, in some tribes, in some cultures, they need to be overweight, seriously overweight, because as you mentioned, it is a form of being a form of status, but also being able to bring children to the world,
Yeah,
because they are nourished, they have the strength, they have the reserve for the baby to eat, and when it's still developing.
yes. Yeah. And it would make sense in, in tribes or in cultures where they are more living off of the land as opposed to being able to walk 5 minutes to a grocery store.
Yes, this is also very true. So I would say, if you really struggle with this, just move.
Yeah, if you don't like the ideals of the people around you and you struggle with it, go somewhere else.
Why not?
Either unapologetically in who you are, not asking permission or forgiveness, and just, be and let people have their opinions, or go somewhere else where you and everything that you are is more embraced.
Yeah, and I also see when you embrace yourself, people start reacting to that. So if you're judging yourself, you can expect that others will judge you, because you speak through them to yourself.
They mirror you. Yeah.
Yes.
And it was really interesting when I was going through, the healing process and going from, self-loathing to getting to a place where I was starting to vocalize and unapologetically own and say that I am a goddess, that I am a divine being. And at first I questioned how people were going to receive that. You know what I mean? And then I remember I was in a big, huge workshop and there were hundreds of people, and they actually voiced that back at me, and they were all calling me a goddess. And that was the moment where I truly embraced it and it clicked in. And it's amazing how much in my reality now I don't have to say it, and people will just say to me, oh my God, you look like such a goddess, you're so beautiful. You know what I mean? And it's not a word I spoke, but it is a knowing for me. It is a fact that I am a goddess, and that I am here to flood this earth with love, that I am a divine being having a human experience. And because that is rooted in who I am, people speak that back at me. And when I voice it, it isn't questioned. It's not, right? So everything that you believe about you is what you're putting out into the world and is being reflected back at you. And if you want to be sexy, it's not about what you're wearing. It's not about the makeup. It's not about your size. It's not about the color of your hair. It's not about how tall you are. It's not about the color of your eyes. It's about how much you love yourself and you own yourself, because there is nothing sexier than a person who loves themselves and struts. You know what I mean? When they have that walk that they're like, I got it going on. You know what? It's hot. It's sexy. And I love seeing it. And I celebrate it and call it out when I see it, because I want to see more of it.
Definitely. And you reminded me of my favorite comedy. My favorite movie is a comedy.
Nice.
And I won't remember the title right now, but it keeps playing in my mind the whole time, and I will put it in the show notes. But
like, what was that movie?
yes, I mean, I love that movie. I saw it maybe 2 years ago, and it is about that. It's a comedy, but it has so much depth in it. And it talks about a girl who is a bit of a overweight. She's a curvy girl. And one day she hits her head and starts believing she is slim.
Oh, wow.
And she behaves like she's slim, and she's like, she doesn't care what other people say, what they look at her funny and in a funny way, and wondering what's going on with her. But she has so much confidence because she put all her confidence in her size. And when she starts believing that she's perfect the way she is mesmerizing, she's magnetizing, she's the queen of the party or the place she walks in. And it's such a beautiful study of human psychology wrapped in a comedy.
Yeah.
That I was blown away. And it really brings this, how much your confidence can influence your impact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because so little of how you communicate is actually verbal. So much of how we're communicating with others is energetic. And I think that's why, the words that I speak are so well received, because I am insanely passionate, you know what I mean? And very convicted in the words that I say, and in the knowing of who I am and why I'm here on this planet and what I'm meant to do. And I want to see everyone be in that same place where they are serving their own agenda, where they're doing something that makes their soul sing, where they are serving something that they're incredibly passionate about, because when you're serving someone else's agenda, when you're making money for somebody else, you're not as convicted, you're not as happy, your soul isn't singing, because it's not really the thing that your soul is crying to you it wants to do, right? So really getting in alignment with your own brilliance and stepping into that is what's going to create that confidence. The more you invest in you, the more you spend time with you, the more you realize how brilliant and beautiful and powerful you are, the more you're going to glow, and the more people are going to want to come play with you.
Yeah. And I do think that the visual part plays a big role in this, because when you are able to show on the outside how you are on the inside, you have this freedom of the inside that allows you to express your outside in your most unique way. And then you discover your style. You don't need to look for inspiration anywhere else. And it naturally happens that you start choosing things that are aligned with you.
Yes. Yeah. I found my style changing when I was going through my own healing journey, and I found myself looking for things that flowed a little bit more, that had more fabric. You know what I mean? I wanted to wear flowy dresses and skirts and stuff like that. So it is true, when you step more into the fullness of who you are, your soul will start to call for things that are specific to you. I actually said, if I could hire a designer to create a line that speaks to harmony, that is the personification of harmony, I would go for flowy, sexy goddess wear and pinup. I don't know how to make the two of them unified, but that would basically be me, because I love being flowy and sexy and stuff, but I love the sexy pinup look too, because it honors the curvaceous goddess. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I definitely do. I definitely do. We don't have time, but I have a story about this. And maybe someday I will share it. But yeah, definitely. I'm with you there 100%. So we need to stop now, although I would like to talk to you for, I don't know, at least for 2 hours more.
Happy to come back anytime.
My thoughts exactly. I thought, we could do like a part, like another episode, and get together again and rock this place.
Absolutely, anytime.
The explosion of passion and beauty, I would call it.
That's amazing. I love that. That's perfect.
So we will schedule it right now.
Perfect.
But until that happens, quickly, could you share if you're open for collaborations?
Yes, of course. Absolutely. Always.
Do you have a favorite way of collaborating?
It's really unique to the individual. Right now, I am collaborating in co-authoring a book, which somebody who specializes in mineral health. So he focuses more on the physiological, and I focus more on neurological, right? So the two of us are coming together to actually publish a book about anxiety. It's called The Ultimate Guide to Overcome Anxiety. And the two of us create a beautiful holistic vision of how to really effectively overcome anxiety and to understand all of the different things that can actually cause anxiety, because most people think that it's neurological, right? And it's rooted more in trauma, whereas a lot of people actually don't realize that if you have copper toxicity, it can create anxiety. If your minerals are out of balance or your nutrition is out of balance, if you have hypoglycemia, you can actually have anxiety as a result of that. So there are so many different factors. So I think it's important for somebody who is an expert in that arena from the physiological perspective to be able to come to the table to speak to that, because I am not an expert in that arena, right? So when I see different scenarios where somebody can come together with me and we can then create an offering, a book, whatever it is that is synergistic, then I'm totally open to whatever it is, because I think the more minds you can bring together to speak to a specific topic, the more information you can bring to the audience to give them resolution.
Oh, yeah. And this holistic approach that I love so much, because we are three-dimensional beings. We are not made of paper. We don't have just two sides. We are 360 degrees.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. Where can people reach you, either for collaboration or for working with you?
If you want to work with me, you can go and check out my website, harmonywoodington.com, and you can book a free soul connection and we can have a conversation. And you can use the soul connection to talk to me about collab as well. So I'm also on social media on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm literally everywhere. And all you have to do is look up Harmony Woodington. My books also, which I have 3 right now published, a journal, a workbook, and a book called Create a Healthy Romantic Relationship, are all on Amazon. And if anybody does struggle from anxiety and is excited about the book that's upcoming, just go to my social media and you'll get updates as to when that's actually going to be released. It's in testing mode right now with people that do struggle with anxiety, because I will not publish the book until it is approved by people that actually do struggle with that and they get results. So I'll make sure also that you have any links that are needed so that they can be in the notes for this podcast, so you can reach out to me so we can have a conversation as well.
Perfect. That was the most perfect closure like ever. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for bringing your lively, passionate self to this podcast. It's been a pleasure and an honor talking to you.
Thank you so much. Likewise.
Thank you for listening to the Style with Anna podcast. If you like this podcast, tell your friends about it, leave a review and subscribe. This is your way of supporting us and telling us our efforts are appreciated. I invite you to take the Attraction Style quiz at www.chooseyoursignaturesstyle.com, followed by a 5-day email sequence. You can go on a discovery journey and have a talk with your inner self like never before. If you would like to learn more about my speaker and guests, kindly refer to the links in the show notes. Listen, there is always time for transformation, even after a breakup, divorce, or turning 50. Thank you for listening to the Style with Anna podcast. If you like this podcast, tell your friends about it, leave a review and subscribe. This is your way of supporting us and telling us our efforts are appreciated. I invite you to take the Attraction Style quiz at www.chooseyoursigunaturestyle.com, followed by a 5-day email sequence. You can go on a discovery journey and have a talk with your inner self like never before. If you would like to learn more about my speaker and guests, kindly refer to the links in the show notes. Listen, there is always time for transformation, even after a breakup, divorce, or turning 50.